Imagine a royal empire, completely victorious in war and bound by this fierce family loyalty. Now, imagine watching that exact same empire just burn to the ground.
Yeah, and not by an invading army or anything like that.
Right, not an army, not a famine or a plague, but just because of a single unspoken suspicion.
It really is a terrifying concept. I mean, the idea that the absolute strongest fortresses, they don't fall from the outside in. They just collapse from the inside out.
And that is exactly what we're exploring today. So, welcome to this special deep dive on the Simplified Summary YouTube channel. We are so thrilled to have you with us.
Absolutely.
And before we, unravel this incredible narrative, I just want to humbly ask you to please hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and share your valuable comments down below. We read them, and we really love hearing your perspectives.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a really rich discussion today. The text we're looking at is, well, it's basically a masterclass in psychological tension.
Yeah. It truly is. We are diving into Munshi Premchand's gripping and honestly deeply tragic story, Pap Ka Agnikund, which roughly translates to the Firepit of Sin.
Right, from his classic collection, Mansarovar, Part 6.
Exactly. And our mission today is to extract the core narrative of this masterpiece and analyze the intense psychological themes Premchand weaves into it. We're looking specifically at how rigid honor codes, blind vows, and just a fatal misunderstanding led to the demise of 4 noble lives.
4 whole lives, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the royal family dynamics that actually set the stage for this whole tragedy.
Setting the stage is crucial here because Premchand doesn't just, build a family. He constructs this entire ecosystem of absolute devotion and honor.
Right.
We're introduced to 4 central figures who basically represent the pinnacle of Rajput nobility. First, there's Prince Prithvising, who is this highly educated, brave, well-traveled royal. And then we have his sister, Rajnandini.
And Rajnandini is such a fascinating character. She is deeply, almost inflexibly moral.
Uncompromising.
Yes, completely. Her sense of righteousness basically dictates the rhythm of the entire household. And she's married to Commander Dharam Singh, a fierce and loyal military leader who also happens to be Prithvising's best friend.
Yeah, the men are as close as brothers. They've fought side by side in numerous campaigns.
Yeah.
And rounding out the quartet is Prithvising's wife, Durga Kunwari, who shares this really beautiful, almost sisterly bond with Rajnandini.
The text really highlights this intense mutual love binding them all together. They aren't just a family sharing a palace, they are an ideological fortress.
That's a good way to put it.
They share this code of righteousness that just seems impenetrable, which is exactly why the interruption from the outside world is so incredibly jarring. Into this perfect harmony walks a woman named Brajvilasini.
Right, she's a Brahmin woman seeking refuge, and she carries a really heavy, traumatic past. She reveals to the princesses that years ago, a young, kind of arrogant Rajput killed her beloved cow.
And we actually need to pause here because, to a modern listener, a dispute over a cow might not sound like the catalyst for an epic, blood-soaked tragedy.
Yeah, it sounds minor to us today.
But let's look at the socio-political weight of this moment. A Rajput prince is literally born and sworn to protect the vulnerable. And a Brahmin's cow, in this cultural context, is profoundly sacred.
Exactly.
So a Rajput killing a Brahmin's cow isn't just a crime. It is a massive, destabilizing violation of the entire social order and dharma.
Precisely. It is a cosmic offense. And the reaction of Brajvilasini's elderly father really reflects that weight. He doesn't go to a magistrate or anything. He challenges the young armed Rajput to a physical duel just to defend his honor.
Wow.
And naturally, the youth mortally wounds the old man. But as the father is dying, he doesn't, impart words of peace. He literally hands his daughter a sword and forces her to swear a blood oath to avenge him.
She takes the sword, and her life essentially just ends in that moment. She becomes a vessel for vengeance.
Just completely consumed by it.
She spends years wandering as an exile, hunting this man down. And eventually, she finds someone she actually believes to be the killer, stabs him, and flees into the mountains.
Right.
She hides in the wilderness for 3 years before finally finding sanctuary in Jodhpur, living under the protection of Rajnandini and Durga Kunwari. And she honestly believes her vengeance is complete.
What's fascinating here is how Premchand is establishing the suffocating grip of the classic Rajput code of honor, known as Kshatriya Dharma. Just look at the domino effect here.
That's crazy.
The father insists on a fatal duel over a cow to protect his honor, right? Then the daughter is bound by a dying oath to commit murder for honor. Premchand is painting a world where honor and promises dictate every single action. It leaves zero room for logic or nuance or even basic human forgiveness.
It's like she's carrying a ticking time bomb, right? She thought she was cured because the symptoms vanished while she was alone in the wilderness. But the moment she enters the specific honor-bound environment of the royal palace, the bomb is just waiting to go
Oh,
off.
absolutely.
And that reactivation happens in the most quiet, mundane way possible.
It's a brilliant narrative pivot by Premchand.
She's simply looking at a book belonging to the princesses. She accidentally drops it, and a photograph falls out. She picks up the picture and instantly recognizes the face. It is the man she swore to kill.
The man she thought she had stabbed to death years ago.
Right. It's Prince Prithvising.
Imagine the psychological earthquake she experiences in that second. Just the realization that her father's killer is alive, and worse, he is the prince of the very palace currently providing her sanctuary.
I can't even imagine.
She manages to mask her initial fury, kind of swallowing the shock, just to survive. But she can't hide it flawlessly.
She can't because Rajnandini is incredibly perceptive. Rajnandini is highly sensitive to any shift in the moral atmosphere, And she notices this sudden dark change in Brajvilasini's demeanor. Rajnandini doesn't know why the refugee is suddenly acting strange, but the unease is definitely registered.
And that unease doesn't just dissipate, it ferments. Because the environment it ferments in is about to become highly, highly pressurized.
Yeah, the very next day, the city of Jodhpur erupts in massive celebration. Prithvising and Dharam Singh are returning home victorious from this grueling military campaign in Afghanistan. Salutes are firing, the streets are joyous.
But Premchand brilliantly undercuts all this external triumph with these deeply unsettling internal omens.
The contrast is striking, right? The external world is victorious, but the domestic sphere is instantly fractured. Rajnandini is preparing the welcoming rituals. She has the arti tray, the sacred ritual tray with the lamps and offerings ready to bless her returning husband and brother.
Right.
But as she steps forward, the tray slips. The sacred flames fall from her hands and just crash to the floor.
And in that cultural and religious context, dropping the arti tray at a welcoming ceremony is just a catastrophic omen. It signifies the extinguishing of light, life, and prosperity.
And the universe doubles down. Immediately after the tray falls, Dharam Singh sneezes and his left eye begins to twitch.
Oh boy.
Yeah, these are classic indicators of impending doom in their culture.
But these omens aren't just supernatural window dressing, Premchand uses them to really map the psychology of his characters.
Exactly. Because she dropped the tray, her brain is now actively scanning her environment for the disaster she believes is coming. Her perception is totally hijacked.
It is a textbook case of confirmation bias. Rajnandini is already unsettled by Brajvilasini's strained mood. The fallen tray just amplifies her dread. She is hypervigilant, practically waiting for a tragedy to reveal itself.
And that hypervigilance leads to a fatal misinterpretation. Later that night, Rajnandini witnesses a scene that she completely lacks the context to understand. She sees her husband, Dharam Singh, sitting in front of Brajvilasini. And Dharam Singh has this incredibly helpless, sorrowful look on his face.
Now, we as the audience know the background tension. We know Dharam Singh is likely sensing the refugee's hidden anguish, or perhaps he's hearing a piece of her tragic story. But Rajnandini doesn't know about the photograph. She doesn't know about the blood oath.
So instead of seeing a complex conversation, her primed, anxious brain instantly locks onto this scene as the disaster the omen promised. She jumps to the worst possible conclusion. She suspects her husband is having an illicit affair with the refugee.
She doesn't see human empathy. She just sees a betrayal of her sacred marriage.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I have to challenge this logic. We just established that they have this legendary, deeply affectionate marriage. They respect each other immensely. So why doesn't she just walk into the room and ask him what's going on?
It's a great question.
Right. Why let this dark suspicion fester in silence instead of just having a 3-minute conversation?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Premchand is exploring the fatal flaw of absolute rigid self-righteousness.
Yeah.
The text makes a really specific note about Rajnandini. It says she despised sin so much she couldn't even tolerate it near her. Because her morality is so unyielding, she fundamentally cannot process the gray areas of human behavior.
It's almost as if her moral compass is so highly calibrated that it just shatters at the first sign of a magnetic anomaly. She can't process a misunderstanding, so she defaults to destruction.
That is a perfect way to phrase it. I mean, for someone with inflexible morals, even the appearance of impropriety is treated as undeniable guilt. To ask him would mean acknowledging the messy, ambiguous reality of human life.
Which she refuses to do.
Exactly. It would mean engaging in a dialogue where she might be wrong or where he might be flawed. Her silent, unverified suspicion becomes the titular sin, the pop that kindles the fire. The true sin here isn't an affair. The sin is her prideful, silent judgment.
And her self-righteousness demands action.
Yeah.
So, to test her husband and to enact revenge for an infidelity she entirely fabricated in her own mind, she manipulates him. She uses the very code of honor he lives by to set a lethal trap.
She weaponizes his Kshatriya dharma right against him.
She tells Dharam Singh about Brajvilasini's unfulfilled oath. She explains that this refugee woman has a sworn enemy who murdered her father. And Rajnandini, acting as this paragon of virtue, demands that Dharam Singh bring her the head of this enemy.
Notice how she frames it too. She doesn't present it as a personal favor. She ties it directly to his foundational duty to protect the weak and to honor the vows of those under their protection. She paints him into a complete moral corner.
And Dharam Singh just walks right into it. He is completely unaware that the target, the enemy Brajvilasini has sworn to kill, is his own brother-in-law.
His best friend.
Ignorant of this reality, Dharam Singh swears an unbreakable oath on the goddess Durga that he will hunt down and kill this man under any circumstances, even if it costs him his own life.
And the moment those words leave his mouth, the trap just snaps shut.
It is exactly like an inescapable logic puzzle. Once the vow is spoken, the gears of destruction just lock into place. Dharam Singh is trapped by the very honor code he lives by. He has sworn on the goddess. In his worldview, backing down would mean the loss of his soul and his honor.
And this highlights the extreme danger of inflexible systems. When honor relies on blind promises rather than truth or context or just basic investigation, it inevitably becomes a tool for self-destruction. Dharam Singh's nobility, his willingness to champion the defenseless, literally becomes the instrument of his own execution.
Because eventually, the truth does come out. Dharam Singh learns the identity of the refugee's enemy. And let's really consider the internal torment Dharam Singh experiences here. He realizes the man he has sworn to the goddess to behead is Prince Prithvising.
It is an agonizing clash of duties. On one hand, he has a sacred vow made to his wife on behalf of a refugee. On the other, he has his profound love and loyalty to his prince and his brother-in-law.
He is forced to murder his family to uphold an oath made on a false premise. And he has to confront Prithvising. But what is incredibly striking about this climax is what Premchand chooses not to show us. Dharam Singh goes to face the man he swore to kill. They fight. Dharam Singh is killed by Prithvising. But Premchand deliberately skips the physical, blow-by-blow details of this epic sword fight between two great warriors.
Yes, he cuts straight to the aftermath, and that is a very intentional literary choice. The real conflict isn't the physical battle. The physical fight is just the bloody symptom of the disease, really.
Yeah.
The true conflict is the destructive collision between duty, blind promises, and unverified suspicion. Focusing on the choreography of the swordplay would just distract the reader from the moral horror of the situation. Premchand wants us entirely focused on the emotional fallout of Rajnandini's silent sin.
And the fallout is an absolute catastrophe. The vow Dharam Singh made resulted in his own death. He was killed by his best friend because he was bound by an oath he made to his wife, who manipulated him out of thin air.
Just heartbreaking.
We move into the terrifying final act of the story here. Rajnandini is now a widow by her own hand, really. Following the rigid customs of her time, she prepares to commit sati, immolating herself on her husband's funeral pyre.
She has orchestrated the destruction of her own life, her husband's life, and her brother's peace. Yet she proceeds with this ultimate ritual of wifely devotion and purity. It is a chilling, staggering paradox.
As the pyre is prepared, Prince Prithvising arrives. He is carrying the unbearable, crushing weight of having killed his best friend. He stands before his sister, Rajnandini, who is seated on the pyre, and he begs her for forgiveness. He pleads with her to pardon his crime, a crime she engineered.
But Rajnandini is unrelenting. Even in the face of death, her absolute morality offers no grace whatsoever.
She looks at her brother and delivers a curse that just chills you to the bone. She says, "You took the life of a young Rajput, you will also be killed in your youth."
And immediately after she speaks this curse, the text tells us that the pyre spontaneously ignites. It doesn't need a torch. Premchand writes that it ignites from the sheer heat of her internal sat, her truth, her ultimate purity.
Wait, her purity, after she manipulated her husband into a death match based on a paranoid delusion. How can the text frame that as purity?
This raises an important question, and it is honestly the thematic crux of the entire story. Was Rajnandini truly a sati? Was she genuinely pure, or is Premchand masterfully subverting the traditional concept of purity here?
I see.
He is showing us how deeply toxic self-righteousness can be when it lacks compassion.
It's a massive, dark irony.
Exactly. The title of the story is Pap Ka Agnikund, the Firepit of Sin. The fire pit is literally her funeral pyre, yes. But metaphorically, the true fire pit was the burning doubt, pride, and suspicion she harbored in her heart. Her so-called purity is indistinguishable from destructive wrath. Premchand is sharply critiquing a society that equates rigid, unyielding pride with moral virtue.
The fire for suspicion literally burned down her family and her dying curse. It acts with the exact same inescapable fatal logic as the vows that started all of this. Within just 7 weeks, the tragic epilogue unfolds. Her curse materializes. Prince Prithvising is ambushed and murdered in Delhi.
The cycle of violence demands yet another life. The ecosystem collapses.
And upon hearing of her husband's murder, Durga Kunwari, who was so deeply bound to the love of this family, also commits sati. The destruction is final. 4 royal lives, Prithvising, Rajnandini, Dharam Singh, and Durga Kunwari, all extinguished. A glorious, loving family wiped off the face of the earth, all because of one single seed of suspicion that was never spoken aloud.
It is a breathtakingly rapid collapse, an entire stronghold of love and honor, eradicated by silence and just an unwillingness to communicate.
Which brings the reality of this story right back to you, the listener. How often in our own lives do we let unverified suspicions dictate our actions? I mean, we might not be making blood oaths on swords, but how often does a lack of communication, driven by our own rigid pride, cause us to jump to conclusions?
Yeah, more often than we'd like to admit.
Silent judgments and an inability to embrace the messy gray areas of human relationships can absolutely burn down our own metaphorical empires, our friendships, our marriages, our careers.
We often trap ourselves in logic puzzles of our own making. We prioritize our pride, our need to be right, over simple, honest vulnerability.
So what does this all mean? That is the question we want you to answer. Please remind yourself to subscribe to the Simplified Summary channel, drop a like on this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know, do you think Rajnandini's rigid morals actually made her the true villain of the story? Let us know down below.
And as you head to the comments, I want to leave you with something to mull over. Consider what Premchand is saying about the kingdom itself. By having the purest and most honorable characters systematically wipe each other out over vows and unverified slights, is he suggesting that absolute uncompromising morality doesn't actually protect a society? Is he warning us that a society obsessed with rigid honor over human empathy leaves itself entirely defenseless against its own mind?
Imagine a royal empire, victorious in war, burned to the ground, not by an invading army, but by a single unspoken suspicion. Thank you for listening.